Cities of the Isles is an impossibly romantic notion for a person who was born in a city 600 miles from the sea in the middle of Africa. So I find the notion rather enchanting, but I would say there are so many things that I've heard this morning and in this session from these wonderful speeches that I just want to rabbit on about any one of those topics for half an hour and ask loads of questions. But I'm here to talk to you, I think really my role here would be to talk to the part of this that is smart futures, and to talk about the One Young World Summit, the 5th summit of its kind, which is coming to Dublin next year from October the 15th to October the 18th. So in the first instance, what is One Young World? One Young World is a global summit for young leaders from this year 190 countries. This year in Johannesburg, we were 1,300 of these young leaders, and in Dublin, there will certainly be more. But if I look at answering why One Young World, really, if I listen to the sports panel and to this panel, everything that One Young World is about is everything that you're talking about, Mary, your brilliant reference to team working, shown us so much about networking, everything Kingsley had to say about crowdfunding, everything that was said in the sports section this morning, is why about One Young World. But let's just talk to the smart future part. I really do believe that we as leaders, and Shona, you are very young, but maybe those of us who are sort of over 30, in my case, at least that, you look fantastic. We would all be leading our cities, our towns, our businesses, and our organizations to better effect if we led them in such a way as to deliver a smart future and a better future for our young people. And it is much easier to do that, or certainly less hard, and it is infinitely more fulfilling to do that when you believe that you are creating a smart future, when you think that you are delivering something for the next generation. And you deliver that better something when you listen to them. I always use for this very simple examples, I could bore you to tears with hundreds of complex examples, but the very simple ones are these. If you attend a grown-ups, an older person's conference, something like the World Economic Forum every year, where every leader of every government in the world, every self-respecting CEO of every big business in the world, and the heads of most NGOs are all together for 3 days. You really do have to ask yourself why, because as far as I can see, nothing gets fixed. That power that comes together there could end the negative effects of climate change across those 3 days. All of the decisions that need to be taken could be taken collaboratively as a team in those 3 days. Nothing happens, and that's just one example. The banking crisis, and you know about this in this country, tragically. The banking crisis, the leaders were warned by Professor Nouriel Roubini of Harvard University in January 2006 about the precise construct of the credit default swap scandal, exactly the timing and exactly what would happen in 2008, and was told by an American person at the back of the room to sit down or go back to Turkey. So I reach a point where I'm going that I don't think business leaders, or indeed government leaders, with the greatest respect to those, which probably means not a lot, I don't believe that we are leading the world to great good effect. And I think I might do better myself in my work, listening to the youngsters in my organization and trying a little bit harder to get my act together and to make the world a little bit better place. I don't think that's too much to ask. We're well paid and well kept in our positions. We could do it a little bit better. And if you don't believe me, here's a pertinent example in this room. The One Young World Summit, the 5th one, is coming to Dublin next year. It will bring, arguably, conservatively, 1,500 people, probably more likely, 1,800 people, 1,800 times 4 nights in hotels, not as big as the Web Summit, but still a decent-sized conference with a decent 7-figure sum attached to it. That summit is coming here to Dublin because of young people, because young leaders from Dublin brought that summit to Dublin. Not me, not even Peter Finnegan, not Ocean, your Lord Mayor. Youngsters brought it. Bob, not quite young enough, Bob Coggins, Clara Kelleher, Val McGrath from KPMG. That was young people who looked at One Young World and said, right, we need that in Dublin. We want to do this for our city. And off they went and did it. So that is just to say to all of you, your worships, the mayors, lady mayors, that is to say to all of you, if you really wanted to do things a bit better, ask a youngster in your organization, find a young leader, and ask them what you could be doing better towards a better tomorrow. And I promise you, if I can come from a tired old industry like advertising, and I can learn this lesson and try at my great age to keep up with the age of Twitter, my handle is at Kate at OYW, hashtag OYW will do it. Those of you who are tweeting, Clara, why aren't you tweeting? If I can keep up, then I promise you anybody can. So in bringing this summit to Dublin, I think to the point about smart future, when I look at the cities that are here, and I think back to our summit, which we've just had, the 4th summit in Johannesburg just 3 weeks ago, the cities of the sub-Saharan continent, but particularly the South African ones, so Durban, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, all sent numerous delegates to Johannesburg for the summit. So why? The benefit was not to their cities. The benefit, the tourism benefit, cultural if you like as well, was to Johannesburg itself. But they sent their young leaders for the sake of, one of you was talking earlier, for the sake of the networking, for the sake of being with each other, for seeing what they could take back to their own cities. And it was the same for the young delegates from 190 countries around the world. All of this stuff about collaborating, doing it together, crowdfunding, such a brilliant concept. Some of these young people decide, say maybe from an impoverished country, decide to set up something like our project, which is called Bookbridge, which brings books from all over the world to centers of school children learning where there are no books at all. We've funded 2 of these. The second one has just started in Cambodia, but that's not what's interesting. What's interesting is Bookbridge is started by a young German chap who started it when he was 24. He's now 27. But the One Young World Social Business Fund, which sounds grand, but the money's tiny, has been able to fund Bookbridge only because One Young World ambassadors from the UK and from the United States took on all the work of the due diligence, the banking and the legal work, and I tell you what, they did that work in a couple of hours. So Carsten and his team in Cambodia have not had to do any of that stuff that has enabled me to give them money without worrying about the due diligence or any of those things. And it's cost nothing. There's a world of reductio ad absurdum where things really can cost these startup businesses nothing. So that's just an example of the things that go on at One Young World. But what I would urge you, I would like to think that every one of the cities here will send at least one young person who you think is going to be the next mayor of your city. Send them to Dublin to be with these amazing young people from all over the world. Now, we were talking at lunchtime about, I wave my hands around a lot, we were talking at lunchtime about the role of the media. There are many youth conferences all over the world. Nobody knows and nobody cares. Nobody cares because the media don't have to care, because nobody really cares what young people think about anyway. So the way that we've put One Young World together is we've said, if we bring what we call the councillors, who are very, 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 very famous people, to the summit, we know the media will turn up because those very famous guys are there. And we ask these famous people to lend their own stature to these young people so that our young leaders are lifted up. What I can tell you for sure is that every young person who attends that summit, their lives are changed forever. And I can also tell you that Kofi Annan, Bob Geldof, Muhammad Yunus, Ariana Huffington, the response is the same. They get in the room with those young people and they come off the stage and they say, it's changed everything. There is no way to describe that magic. Now, I'm going to show you a very short video of the Pittsburgh summit. I would like to show you Johannesburg, but we have a tremendous struggle editing in 3 days into 3 minutes. And I'm sure all of you, Bob and Clara and John McGran and the team, will be showing you the Johannesburg video endlessly before we get to Dublin, which will be the best of all of them because all the cities of the Isles will be there. So take a look at this short film from Pittsburgh last year. And in closing, I just say, I will see all of you and all your young people at One Young World in Dublin next October.